I'm a strong ass woman. I'm a grown ass woman. I say exactly what I mean. I speak my mind, I speak my truth. Living loud and living free. If you call it unladylike, that's alright with me. Strong women speaking true.
There's a version of you that people loved. She was easier to deal with, easier to understand, easier to control. And the truth is, she got you through a lot. But at some point, she couldn't take you any further. And that's where it gets uncomfortable. Because becoming who you are today means letting go of who you used to be. This is Grown and Unladylike with Star Moss, where women speak honestly about life, growth, and what it really costs to become this woman. And tonight, we're talking about the version of ourselves we had to let go. Tonight, I'm joined by two incredible women who have experienced that shift where growth required letting go. Nina Thiara and Shannon Donahoe Simpson, excuse me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us about yourself and what you do, starting with Nina.
Hi, my name is Nina Tiara, and I'm a um, I'm a personal growth coach, and I support women to stop over functioning and help them reconnect to themselves so they can start living life on their terms.
Okay, and Shannon?
Thanks for having me, Star. I am a speaker, a self proclaimed joy bringer, and I help women be brave enough to choose joy regardless of what life is throwing at them. And I'm really happy to be here today.
Okay. So, Shannon, what is your story? And can you take us back to this journey where it really began?
Thanks for asking, Star. So, my journey starts back in 2009. I was sitting at the Callanish Society, which is an organization that does week-long retreats for people with cancer. And as everyone was going around the circle and sharing their story, there was this one woman that spoke up, and she spoke about her sexual abuse. And in that moment, something woke up inside of me. And as I realized, as people were going around the circle sharing their stories, I realized that I wasn't actually at this retreat for cancer. I was actually there to heal the wounds that caused my cancer. And when it was my turn to share, I opened up and shared for the very first time the sexual abuse that I experienced at the hands of my grandfather when I was a little girl. And I shared my story about how I was raised to be seen and not heard, and how holding these secrets inside my body had made me physically sick. And that's how I came to really, that was my big awakening, being in that circle and realizing that the emotional trauma that I experienced as a child had made me physically sick.
Wow. So you were taught as a child to be seen and not heard. So how did that affect you growing up?
Well, it affected everything because everything was a secret. I didn't feel
Mm-hmm.
safe to speak my truth. And when we don't feel safe to speak our truth, then all of a sudden we're not living our authentic selves and we're living out of alignment, which means we're living our life for everybody else. And that makes not a lot of joy for the person living it. And
And
that's
when
why
did you realize that it was okay to speak your truth, to speak up for yourself?
Mm. Well, I mean, my story is I think there's more parts of it as we go. I mean, as we age, I feel like there's more courage that comes along. But I think my biggest transition day was when I left my first husband. And I remember the phone ringing and I was packing up the house and I answered the phone. They didn't have call display back then. And it was
Wow.
my mother-in-law, and she was like, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" I was like, I'm leaving your son." And she was like, "Oh." And next thing you know, she gave me this name to a counselor by name, and I will never forget this woman. And she basically showed me what boundaries were. And not long after that, I was in the police department filing a report against my grandfather. And that was
Wow.
a transformational day for me where I realized that, well, just even being able to speak my truth, write my truth, and be heard. Uh, and I also say out loud that, hurt people, and a big part of my journey has been learning to forgive my grandfather for
Yes.
all the things. So, yeah.
So Shannon, for listeners, how can they start creating more joy in their lives?
Hmm. Well, it all starts with being true to yourself. Listen to your no's. When there's a no, listen to that. Don't go in the room and put on the fake smile because you want to make everybody else around you comfortable. Do
Mhm.
what is best for you. And for me, it's been a bit of a journey because, I grew up really believing that pleasing everyone else was my job, and especially when it came to men. And so, really having the courage to live my truth and not worry about what everybody else thinks and if I upset other people, because in the end, this is my life. I'm not here to make everybody else happy. I'm here to live my best life. That takes courage sometimes, often. Yes.
Good answer. Once someone begins to find more joy, how do they protect it and not lose themselves again?
Mm-mm. Boundaries. Boundaries
Mm.
for me has been a really big part of my journey. Especially when, as a young girl, having someone that I trusted so deeply cross my boundaries in a way that no child should ever experience. So I learned very quickly and very early on that not speaking my truth was,
Mhm.
or keep being silent was the way. And that's not what I want to do anymore. But if authenticity is speaking our truth, then boundaries is putting that truth into action. And again,
Mhm.
boundaries is that thing that, not all of us, especially women, we're not really great at. It's something that we really need to work through. And it takes courage to have boundaries and say, actually, no, that doesn't work for me. Or no, I'm actually not going to go today. Or that's actually not in alignment with me. And courage to speak our truth and speak what is right for us.
Mhm. We're going to talk more about boundaries later in the show. Um, how can we navigate difficult relationships or life challenges while staying connected to ourselves and our joy?
Hmm. You know, I think I know this has been a big one for me. I've learned along my journey, I used to point the finger at everybody else.
Mm.
And for me, a big part of my journey has been to self reflect and know that I can't change or fix anybody else. The only thing that I can change and fix is myself. And when
Mhm.
I learn that, because I used to point the finger at everyone, and then I realized that there was actually three fingers pointing back at me. And so when I take
Mm.
ownership of my own stuff and know that maybe this is happening outside of me, and if I could pause instead of going, why are they behaving that way and why are they doing this? Maybe pause and just ask myself, what is this here for me to learn? And
Right.
how can I learn to react to this better? Because I can't change anything outside of myself. And that's probably been the biggest learning journey for me along all of this, is because I used to try to control everything outside of me and
Mhm.
just caused more and more and more heartbreak and more frustration, um, and more disconnect from myself. So if I learn that the only thing I can control is me, that's where the happiness starts, is that I know I get to control
Mhm.
myself. That's it. Nobody else.
Exactly. That's the only person we have control over is ourselves. So you really can't worry about what other people are doing, thinking, saying. You can't control that. All you can do is control yourself.
Yeah.
For those who want to go deeper with your work, how can they connect with you or access what you offer?
Oh, thanks for asking, Star. So I am on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on my website at shannondonahosimpson.com. You can also find me on my YouTube channel, which is shannondonahosimpson.com as well. So yeah.
Okay. And at the end of the show, both of you'll have a chance to give the audience your social media. Nina, I have some questions for you. So, Nina, you've been on a deep healing journey for years. What was the moment where you finally connected the dots and became the woman you are today?
Wow, thank you, Star. Oh God, I could take this so many different directions, but I'll take it. The pivotal moment for me was 2006 when I was overwhelmed and frustrated where I was. I had so many health issues. I had anxiety, depression, hormonal issues. Um, I had so many symptoms that were unexplainable with the medical system. And I was always on the journey, like, why did I feel this way? Why was this happening to me? Why was I so tired? And why was I so feeling exhausted all the time? And not really feeling myself. So it wasn't until
Hmm.
2006 where I ended up, where they say when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I met a woman who was my mentor, and basic with her work and what I found out, the reasons that I was feeling the way I was, and it was quite a long journey from 2006 to 2025. What I found out was for me was I never learned how to feel my emotions. I never knew how to process my emotions. I never knew how to connect the dots to everything that was going on in my life. I didn't know my core programming or patterns, they call it. Um, I didn't know any of that because it was something that was never taught to me as a child. It was all due to subconscious programming, conditioning, belief systems, um, and not being shown how to be a woman. So I manifested all these illnesses. And, I was looking since 1990 to find a way, like, why was I feeling this way? And so it was 2006, my deep journey started, where we started peeling back the layers, why I was feeling this way. And as each emotion came up, I processed it, I connected the dots, and underneath the layers of core programming that I had. And once I
Hmm.
connected all that, I started seeing a bigger picture. And that journey
Hmm.
took me from 2006 to 2025. And the reason my journey was so long was because I was so suppressed on all levels. Because that
Wow.
wasn't so basically when we have an emotion and we don't feel it, we freeze. And when we don't feel it, it lodges into our body, into our muscles, into our tendons, into our bones. And so what happened was every emotion that I hadn't felt came up to the surface. So that's the
Mm.
reason my journey was long.
Mm.
And so it was actually 2025 that I really started connecting dots. Like I really got it. Like I really got what it felt to like feeling emotions, I really got what it was like connecting the dots, and I started understanding who I was at the core. And that's where I learned that, I had a soul purpose.
Now, did you figure this out on your own, or did you have to do some type of therapy?
So, there's so much work out there, and I had tried so much other work before, seminar work, reading books, go to this workshop, do this. So I worked with a therapist. I worked with a naturopathic doctor. And with her help, plus other mentors, there's parts of the journey where she can help me. So I needed support, additional support, like marriage counseling, or I did all kinds of, it was energy healing. So so yeah, so that my journey was with one person, but I also had other mentorship.
Mhm. Now, as a child, when you were feeling a certain emotion, were you taught to hide your feelings, or is this just part of your culture?
Culture is part of it, I say, but you know what? Now that I've learned all this, I think it's across the board. There are a lot of women out there who don't know how to feel their emotions at the core. But for me, going back to your question, yes, it was a cultural thing that, I took it on because my family, my mother was married very young and she didn't know anything about emotions. So
Mhm.
basically, what, they say, a child learns from age 1 to 7. Those are the most critical years of a child's life. So that's what happened to me. I took on what was taught to me.
Yeah, that's just not healthy. So I'm happy that you were able to figure it all out and you're fine today.
Yeah, it was not an easy journey. Some of it, like, I can't believe I did it, but I'm so glad where I
Mhm.
am today for sure.
That's good. And it is good that you're teaching because, like you said, there are many women who don't know how to process their emotions. You're feeling something and you don't even know what to do with the feelings.
That's
So,
right. And for me, the hardest part was now, and this came in 2025, mid 2025, which is actually quite, shocking when I look back at it, was how to sit with your emotions. I never knew. I read article after article. My coach even kept saying to me, sit with your emotion, journalize. And I'm like, what is she talking about? I didn't enjoy that part. And now I know exactly how to sit with my emotions. So something comes up, instead of I used to distract it away. I used to shop it away. I used to text a friend. I used to go to the gym twice a day. Had all kinds of distractions, TV, um, so many distractions so I could, not have to feel it. And now that I
mhm,
can sit with an emotion, it's an amazing feeling because I get to sit with it. And once I'm sitting with that emotion, it actually starts to lessen the feel of it, the energy of it. It starts to lessen. It just kind of moves through you. And I remember many of my mentors would share that emotions, we're not supposed to hold on to them forever. And I didn't get it. But as my journey deeper and deeper, and like I said, 2025 was another pivotal moment where I said, wow, this is what it actually feels like to sit with an emotion and let it
mhm,
pass through you. And it just lessens. And I can see Shannon there. Um, with her, her face, and it makes me so settled, and the peace that you get when you can actually have those emotions flow through you and you're not triggered. And
mhm,
one of the biggest reflection on that, and Shannon was sharing that as well, is reflecting, being able to look within. So most of my journey was looking within. And as a child or as a society as a whole, we're taught to look outside of ourselves.
Mm.
So that was it was looking within, and that was hard, because I was an autopilot all my life. And I don't want to compare, what I see this happening day in, day out. Like looking back, I didn't know how I got to work some days,
okay,
Now I am so present. I know how I got to work. I know why it happened. And,
mhm,
having that, connecting myself to emotions and where they came from and feeling them and healing them, I'm not triggered. I've had some, I test myself sometimes. I've had some things happen in my life in the last number of years, and I just like, I've settled with them and I've found so peace with them. And there was actually an incident just very short. in my life I can share, um, where someone blew up at me about something, and I just listened to her, and the old Nina would have gotten triggered. I just listened. I apologized. I didn't get caught up in the story. It was actually, and then what was even more beautiful about that story was I got to heal something that took me back 20 years through this woman. Self
Mhm.
reflection, mirror work. I was like, wow, thank you for coming into my life.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. So, a lot of high achieving women look like they have it all together, but internally they're overwhelmed. Why is learning to process your emotions so important? And what happens when you don't?
Wow. And I can only speak about myself. I think what happens, and that could just relate to my journey, is you live with the program you've been given, and you just run on autopilot. And what happens is, yeah, for me, what happened was I had so many symptoms, and I was constantly collapsing with depression and feeling anxiety. I had irritable bowel syndrome, so stomach issues, hormonal issues. I could go on with this list. So, not knowing how to process your emotions and not feeling them, that's what will happen to a woman. You will have all kinds of these symptoms and you won't know. You'll just run around on empty, feeling overwhelmed day in, day out. And what's even sad is if you have children, it affects your children as well. I mean, it did affect my
Mhm.
children, but now healing myself, and I even shared with this Shannon. I remember when I first met Shannon and she had some stuff that was going on here in her life. And I said, when someone does the work around emotions and feeling them, connecting dots and looking at their core programming, not only do you heal yourself, you heal your children. You heal
Oh.
your relationships ancestrally. Like your
Mhm.
whole life just is different. Yeah, some people in your life will fall off, but your whole world just changes. And that inner peace that you get, oh, I can't explain that. Like it's just I feel this every day. I'm like, oh my God, I have to pinch myself, where I used to be and where I am today and the relationship I have out there, not only with myself, but with my boys and the connections I make
Mhm.
daily, like Shannon, like I had no idea. And I had no idea where all three of us going to end up on this podcast. So that's
My
beautiful. Yeah.
goodness. So when you're feeling an emotion, you don't react right away. You just kind of sit with it, process it, and figure out what to do with that feeling.
So with my journey, um, when I was doing it, it was hard. It was really hard. Like me learning just the emotional part, 'cause it was taught to me. I had to learn this like in God, I think I was just turning 40 when I started my journey. So I had to learn this harder. So for me, it was very, very hard. Like, her saying, sit with your most journalize, like I shared this before.
Mhm.
I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was just tedious. Like, why? Now I'm a journalizing queen. I can connect the dots so fast. And I'm highly intuitive as well. Um, yeah, so I really feel it's important. Like when something comes up, it's just easier. My brain has rewired itself. It's like all that subconscious programming came to the conscious, and I learned to sit with each emotion as it came along. I connected the dots, felt that motion, the core programming underneath it, and now it's just natural. Now it's like I said, whatever you're given at birth, you can change it, and that's why my journey was so long. I shifted all that, and now something
Mhm.
comes up. It's like it's a natural response. Like my whole basically, I remember when I was doing the work with my mentor, she goes, "It's like, I'm gonna help you delete all your files." And I'm like, "What is this woman talking about?" Now, it's like me, this is the real Nina. Because I remember at one point I said to her, I said, "What am I doing here?" And she's, "I'm helping you become the real you." Still, I was dumbfounded. Now I think back at everything she said to me, I'm like, "Oh, I get it." So this is who I was. This is who I used to be with my old programming. This is who I am today, having all those files deleted. And with my new
Mhm.
programming, nothing's changed. I'm still Nina, but I function with a lot more clarity because I know my emotions. I know how to feel them. And everything's just natural. It's like, when I talk to people, everything's just like, I don't want to sit there. Like
Yeah.
it's just there.
Mm.
Wow. Shannon, have you had any problems with your emotions, expressing yourself, processing your emotions?
Pretty much my whole life. Oh my goodness. Yeah, a total lack of emotional intelligence pretty much my whole life. Yeah, grew up in a house where their emotions weren't really encouraged. Anger wasn't allowed, sadness wasn't allowed, and so suppressed a lot of my emotions. And so when I had my kids, and my son being on the spectrum, being a lot of emotions, not knowing how to help him with that. So I had a counselor that helped me, that helped him. And I didn't realize that it actually was going to be helping me as well. Until one day when I did a medicine journey, when things had gotten pretty dark for me in my life. And I didn't really know what way to turn because the only way I wanted to go at one point was just out. And so I decided to do a psilocybin journey where I went inward and did some real deep work. And what came out of that process was me realizing that I had been blaming my kids for my anxiety and all the things going on in my life. And I actually realized in that moment that it was my kids were just reflecting back my own
Mm.
anxiety, my own
Mm.
stuff. And so it was a real humbling time. And so it's back to what I was talking about before, where, we point our finger and we realize that there's three fingers pointing back at us. And so when things are not in balance outside of our life, it's that where we need to be pausing and really reflecting back on ourselves and looking at what's happening within ourselves, not
Mhm.
outside of ourselves, because we can't fix anything outside of ourselves.
Yeah. I think, a lot of people, as Nina said, just go through trying to figure out what these emotions are and don't know what to do with them. So, um, thank you for doing this work.
Mhm.
Nina, you talk about boundaries in a very real way. What changed in your life when you stopped over functioning and started setting effective boundaries?
Wow. That's such a big question for me because I had no boundaries. I didn't even know the word boundaries meant. Okay, because it was never taught to me as a child or as a, even growing up. So what really started to change? Well, I ended up leaving a 20-year marriage, you know. I ended up leaving a job I didn't like. I changed friendships. My whole world changed as a result of putting in boundaries. I changed putting in boundaries. And not
Mhm.
only change outwards, the change inwards. I felt a lot more settled having boundaries with people because I was taught fear around boundaries. I was taught as a child that if I said no to anybody, that it was going to be a problem. And
Hmm.
now I look at it when I put boundaries in a kind, you know, gentle way and frame it, just the way it's supposed to be framed, it's beautiful, you
Mhm.
know? And everybody wins when you set a boundary. It's a beautiful way of living. Having boundaries in everywhere, your work, your business relationships, it improves. It improves everything in your life by having boundaries.
It's true because if you don't set boundaries, people will just run all over you, and you're trying to accommodate everyone and please everyone. So I learned that in my own life. You have to set boundaries. You have to say no to the things that you don't want to do. Or, I found myself, if I was in the middle of doing something for myself, If someone came and asked me to do something, I stop what I'm doing for me and do what they want me to do. I don't do that anymore. I mean, you have to set boundaries.
And if I can share a story, Star, I remember once when I put a boundary with somebody, no names mentioned here, this person hung up the phone.
Mhm.
They literally hung up the phone on me. I was like, okay. And I was actually healing at the time. So I wasn't feeling most amazing. Um, and I remember this person hung up the phone. And that's
Mhm.
okay. There's a first time for everything. But it still wasn't learning the lesson of boundaries at that time. But it was now looking back, I was like, wow, that was my first when I put a boundary in, and this is what happened.
Mm. Uh-huh.
Good. You say everything comes back to our core programming. How did your own childhood conditioning shape your patterns, and how do you begin to break them?
Wow, that's such a deep question. So as a child, you know, and I don't want to point it at just culturally. I think it's broad out there in general in the world. But looking back, you know, I took on all this subconscious programming conditioning as a child,
Mhm.
right? So I took it on, like and those patterns just shaped the person I became later in life. Be a good girl, don't say no, wear this, don't wear this, have your hair a certain way. Um, and those patterns and belief systems just carried in my life and just caused a real overwhelm and havoc on my life until I started noticing them. And, noticing patterns and, core programming, that was the hardest part of my journey. That took me years to actually put in a space or a container that I actually understood it, you know?
Mhm.
And now, and that's a core, that conditioning was huge for me. And that shaped me, the person I was and now I look at it, I'm able to connect the dots so quickly as I coach women or even when I am talking to someone. It's become so conscious to connect to patterns and core programming. So it's a huge part of my healing.
I think most girls at a young age are programmed, like you said, wear your hair like this, put on this, don't say that,
Mhm.
watch that tone, and that carries through into your adulthood. And then after a while, you just say to yourself, I just want to be me. I just want to say what I want to say, wear what I want to wear, do what I want to do. And that's really how this podcast came about because, I just started thinking about it and it just resonates with so many women. So obviously, I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
So it's time for women to just be who they are and
Amen.
speak up for themselves.
exactly.
Amen.
And going back to what Shannon was saying, was to always remember, and that was a huge part of my journey, is not to blame others. You know,
Mm-hmm.
even now, if I come out with a problem, I reflect it. Is there a mirror for me to heal before? And I see my part in the story. The biggest part, a part also of my journey was not getting caught up in the story because I was so used to getting caught up in the story. He said this, she said this, and that itself energetically depletes you. Now
Mm-hmm.
I don't even yeah, I hear stories, but I see where what I need that from that story and heal it for myself. So self-reflection work was huge for me, looking at my mirrors. So like Shannon says, my old, your children, the people in your life are a huge part of showing you those mirrors and reflecting them back.
Nina, this podcast is about success and inner fulfillment. What does living a truly aligned life actually look like after doing this kind of inner work?
Wow, that's such a huge question. um looking back at where I was, and because I was over functioning as a child, and after doing all this work, it was hard. It was really hard. There's times I didn't want to do it, and my mentors would say, once someone starts on the journey, they normally don't want to leave because your symptoms will still stay, right? Because there's lots of dark nights, they call it. I collapsed with 3 huge episodes of depression, you know? And I think what after doing this long healing journey, I truly feel blessed and grateful that I met the people that I did, and I was able to heal myself. And today life is just, I have so much inner peace. I can't even begin to explain the inner peace I have getting up in the morning. And one of the things I didn't mention was another symptom. I had insomnia for most of my life, 20 years of it. And now I sleep like a baby. Like this morning, I did not want to get up, but I had to get up, you know? Um, so inner peace and just gratitude and just learning just my journey was learning about self-love. That wasn't taught to me as a child. So that's one thing I didn't mention. So self-love is huge in my life, and that
Mhm.
comes out when I share my story, when I'm out there interacting with people. It's all about love. This life that we are, it's all about love. That's it at the end of the day.
Amazing. So, let's talk about who you used to be. So this question is for both of you, and feel free to comment on, each other's answers. This is a conversation. So, who were you before this version of you? Anyone can go first.
Well, I was I was an overgiver. I was a people pleaser. I Gist of it was not knowing who I was at the core. So I just kept running on autopilot and not knowing how to feel my emotions. Had I known all that, I would have done better. So I was basically not being I wasn't authentic. Basically, let's put it that way.
Mm,
I was not authentic to who I am today at the core. And now I speak up. I didn't speak up. There was a lot of fear. I was raised, and not in a way to say, my parents or my upbringing was bad. That's all my family knew. That's all they were raised through.
mhm.
And now being on the other side, it's just amazing. And I don't, I'm not that person. I have boundaries. I speak my truth in a kind, gentle way to everybody. And,
Mhm.
it works great.
When did it click, to you, um, to stop being who you were and become who you are? When did you figure that out?
When did I figure that out? I had the gist of it. Like I started working in 2006 doing the work. It was around 2009, 2010 when I collapsed with my first depression, sort of. But it was just a glimpse of it. And then with the help of medication, again, I went on autopilot again because I started feeling better again. It's still, I didn't question anything,
Mhm.
right? I was feeling great, top of the world. And it was actually later, 2006, I think it was really later, about 2012, when I really started questioning what was going on. And that's when, left. I separated from my ex husband. Yeah. That was the gist of it. And then more came out as I left. The more stuff came out to the surface, more
Mhm.
blocks. It was just, like I said, it was a very long journey because I was so emotionally, mentally, even on a physical level, because I hadn't felt anything, even physically. It was hard on body. There was days I didn't want to get out of bed, but I had I had a life to live. I had to go to work. I had to take care of other things in my life, like my children, a family.
Mhm. Wow. Shannon, what about you? Who were you before this version of you?
Mm. I would say I was the person that my worth was wrapped up in what I could do. I was a perfectionist, raised by a
Mm,
perfectionist, and it was about being busy. And the busyness was avoiding the emotions, which, we can
Mm,
go back to what Nina's been saying. But that was my way of coping. If I was busy, if I was producing, if I was doing, I was worthy. But if I was to sit still, read a book, be quiet, heaven forbid, listen to my intuition or what's best for me, um, no, I didn't do any of that. And it's why I talked about this in my TED talk. It was the big joke at my wedding. And I actually talked about this on my wedding night. It was like, oh, I found someone who could keep up with me. And
mhm,
and it was something I was proud of. And it's like, really? Like, but it wasn't about keeping up with me. It was about me avoiding my emotions and actually not
mhm,
actually living my authentic self because
mhm.
everything that I stood for was this worth outside of me, nothing about actually who I was in the inner core. I didn't even know who I was.
When did it click for you that you weren't being your authentic self? And, when did you realize it? And when did you start doing the work to become who you are today?
I I'm not sure that there was an exact moment. I think there's been a lot of big moments along my way. You know, I've been through the trauma in my childhood. Talked about going to the police department and filing that report against my grandfather. You know, got diagnosed with cancer when I was 34 and supported my young kids through autism and anorexia. And my husband at the time had PTSD and a broken back, and there was just so many things that were going on. But I think through each of those really hard things, it forced me to pause. And that's the thing. When we go through these hard things in life, it's the
Mhm,
forced pause. And when we're forced to pause, we are forced to look inward. And, some people might think I'm crazy for saying this, but it was the best part of COVID because it forced us to pause. It forced us to spend a lot of time with people that we thought that we really liked, and then we realized that we didn't really like. And it forced us to be with ourselves at home in quiet, in silence,
mhm,
and actually like pick up old habits, like maybe some crafting and things got done around the house. And, we started to realize, oh, I don't like this. I do like this because we actually had to be with ourselves.
mhm,
And so it's when we can actually pause and reflect and be quiet. And that comes back to what Nina was saying earlier. Well, we would do we have a practice in the morning? Do we get up? Do we journal? Do we meditate? Do we close our day with journaling? Do we go for walks on beaches? When we have a download, do we actually pause and listen? And
mhm.
this is another thing that maybe people are going to think I'm crazy, but when I'm sick now, I invite it. I don't fight it anymore because I know that my body is talking to me and I
I'm really
need to
yeah.
listen. So I don't run to the store and buy all the cough medicine. I just go on the couch, I grab a cup of tea, and I let my body heal and I sit with what is showing up for me emotionally because obviously there's some shit I need to process.
Wow. So, what did people expect of you when you were the old version of yourself? What do people expect from you?
Mm. Well, be seen and not heard, be a good little girl, do as
mhm.
I'm told, dress appropriately, only speak when it's my turn.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people say to me actually, and this is a family member word for word, I can't wait till the old version of Shannon returns.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, you're gonna be waiting a long time because it's never gonna happen. It ain't never gonna happen. Yeah, I
Wow.
am so ready to, and I'm just fierce in the new version
Mm-hmm.
of me. And it's actually not a new version of me. It's the version that I forgot. It's the
Mm-hmm.
version that I always freaking was, that was suppressed and told otherwise. And so it's like clearing out the shit, taking out the closet, cleaning out the skeletons, and being fiercely, authentically me.
Mm-hmm. And I think the old version of ourselves is the version that other people created and based on other people's ideas and expectations. And the new version of ourselves is who we authentically are and who we created. We got in touch with ourselves and figured out exactly who we are.
Amen.
Yeah. I love it how you said that.
Hmm.
We got in touch with ourselves, you know?
Hmm.
Because it wasn't taught to us, it doesn't mean that we can't learn it, you know? We can learn it. It's not gonna be it's not gonna feel good
Hmm.
sometimes, not gonna be easy because you're gonna be changing, you're gonna be changing boundaries, People are gonna say, "Why are you doing that?" Like I said, people are drop
Comfortable.
the phone hang the phone up on you.
Hmm.
I could God, share you all kinds of stories that people did to me when I, started changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Started becoming real, started really acknowledging that what was going on was wrong because, because I was in a cultural, um, it was like a lot. It was the way of being, you know? And when you're in a culture or with a group of people and you don't expand yourself, then that's all you know. And once you start
Hmm.
changing, that group starts kind of looking at you like, that's different. It's not allowed. So they kind of force you to stay. And I was so blessed that in my journey that I was able to get the support that I did and make changes in my life. Because a lot, there's just isn't enough mentorship there for the journey that I went through. Because I was taken from right from the beginning, from childhood. The work was deep, right from utero, actually, to where I am today. So yeah.
Let's talk about the breaking point. When did you realize you had to change?
I think for me, there wasn't just one moment. I think it was happening over from 1990, when I really was like looking for answers, going to this person, going to a workshop, doing all kinds of things. It was happening over time. I was looking for mentorship. I was looking for, I would go to one naturopath, I would go to another one. And it was just quick fixes I was getting along the way. So I would feel good for 3 months or 6 months. And, 2006 was a pivotal moment for me when I met this, because at the end of my rope, I had worked with one person from 1990 to 2006, and I wasn't seeing results. They were quick fixes. And so when I met this work, it wasn't going to be a quick fix. It was a long journey. And when I started working with this person and started doing the work, I really, yeah, I saw that there was light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. And I just kept going. And here I am. Actually, 19 years
Hmm.
later, here I am.
That's great. What about you, Shannon?
So the question is what was a pivotal moment of change in my life? And
Hmm.
I think I really resonate with what Nina said. I'm not sure that there is any actual pivotal moment. I mean, I did talk about like the different parts of my journey along the way. But I guess if you want to speak to more recently, is when, I went through this divorce in the last 2 years. And, I was really, really lucky to be, at the time, I didn't, my ex-husband, wanted to separate from me. And at the time, he didn't want to leave the house. And I knew that I couldn't be around this person while I was trying to heal and I was trying to sort through my emotions. And I was gifted, a girlfriend knew of someone, and I, believe it or not, but I was gifted a penthouse that was sitting empty. And I got to
Mhm.
stay in this beautiful penthouse for 3 months. And it was the best gift ever because I got to go there and just be quiet with myself and only myself. And I
Mhm.
cried, I journaled, I cried some more, I journaled some more, I talked to friends, I met with counselors. I did all the things to process all the emotions that were coming up. And I think that's what it comes back down to, and I think
Mhm.
I'm hearing a theme over and over. It's it's the slowing down, it's the going inward, it's allowing ourselves the time to process the emotions and things as they come up. And, we're raised in this culture where everything is about doing and being and this very male dominant, we gotta do, but we're not meant to live in our masculine energy. I do believe we all have masculine and feminine energy, but we're not meant to live in this masculine go 24-hour clock. I mean, we're female. We have a cyclical month-long cycle. We're not supposed to live the cycle of men. Let's be freaking
Mhm.
real here. And so and and I guess the other part of that is I started sitting in a lot of women's circles, and as I sat in a lot of women's circles, as I spoke my truth and watched other women nodding their heads and realizing that, holy shit, I'm not alone. Like, they too have been through this. And just listening to the other women speak has been
Mhm.
really transformational in my life. So, I don't know that there's any one specific time. It's just been this ongoing journey, but I think it really comes back to this piece around slowing down
Mm.
and looking inward.
Mhm. So, was there any particular moment, Shannon, that pushed you to the breaking point, or was it just, something that you were figuring out over time that, this is you have to change?
Well, I do talk about that a little bit earlier when I was finding myself in a really dark place where my husband had broken his back. My son was quite sick with anorexia, was homeschooling both
Mhm.
my kids at the time. There's just a lot of moving parts going on. And I got to a place where it was really dark and I didn't know which way to turn anymore. And so that's when I
Mhm.
decided to look into plant medicine, and I ended up doing what they call a psilocybin journey. And that was really transformational. It's funny that I even say this because I actually messaged the woman this morning who I did that journey with and thanked her for literally transforming my life.
Mhm. And what about you, Nina?
The question, can you repeat the question, please, again?
What exactly pushed you to the breaking point? Was there any particular moment or just a buildup of things that you decided I'm changing. This is it.
Like I said, I was an overwhelmed all my life, as a child, as a teenager. And it was actually after I got married and I had more responsibilities and not knowing how to feel emotions, not having boundaries. So those moments were coming up slowly through my symptoms. So for me was symptoms, anxiety, depression, um, what else? IBS, it was coming for me, it was coming through symptoms. high cortisol, which results in, weight gain, So it was coming through in symptoms. So as I wasn't feeling my emotions, more symptoms were coming. Other symptoms were getting worse actually as I was getting older and, had more responsibility and no boundaries and not having the tools. And and then once, I was able to, I just kept looking for people to help me. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
when I, got to that, there was no pivotal moment. It was just, escalation in my symptoms. And that's how my journey kept going.
Mm-hmm. Did either one of you have to leave a toxic environment to become who you are today?
I can't speak for Nina, but I already know the answer. Um, but, 100%. I think that's, I mean, I've been married 2 times now, and both again, my background in what I went through with my grandfather, I mean, I was taught at a very, very young age that we do what we're told and that I can't trust men and that I'm to please men, that's my job, and that didn't work out for me until I learned the hard way over and over and over. And again, we repeat these patterns until we finally get it. And some of us are lucky enough to see the patterns a little earlier, or maybe have great mentors that can show us that. And some of us, I think and I don't know that I think we come to our time when we're meant to. Like the universe has our life already mapped out for us ahead of time.
Mhm.
I don't think there is any, you know, magic thing. I think everybody's on their own journey and we're all coming to, our realizations in all perfect time.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Nina?
Uh, Toxic. Yeah, I lived in a toxic environment. Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I always reflect on this. These people knew what they knew, but being in that toxic environment, I didn't have the tools to leave. So once I started gaining the tools, I didn't blame anybody. I left because it wasn't serving me. It wasn't serving my higher good. It wasn't the person I was. It wasn't, that just wasn't me. So yes, I left a toxic environment. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to move on now to what it cost you. What did you lose in the process of changing into the new version of yourself?
I feel like I've already answered this question, and again, it comes back to um, you know, what did I lose? You know, I really feel like I lost a lot of people in my life. It was really interesting. Like, I stopped drinking alcohol because
Mm.
it wasn't serving my body. Being a cancer survivor for many years, I used alcohol as a coping mechanism. I used to drink every single night. It wasn't great. I became very reactive, very angry. Um, wasn't the really best mother at often because I was just in reactive mode often. And but when I knew that I wanted to stop drinking alcohol, um, a lot of people didn't like that. It was
Mm-hmm.
almost they made it about them. And I remember even like saying to my ex-husband, like, I want to quit drinking. And I honestly would come down almost every single morning and say, I want to quit drinking. And then he would go to the liquor store and he would buy beer and then he would say, there's wine in the fridge for you. And I'm like,
Mm.
but I want to quit drinking. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to quit drinking when the other people around you are feeling uncomfortable. And I mean, it's not about putting blame. We're again, we're all on this journey doing our own thing. But I even noticed like how our friends shifted in that journey because I started hanging out with people that were not into drinking, and then he was still hanging out with people that were still drinking, and I noticed that there was just this it wasn't cohesive anymore because I just wasn't interested, and I just knew that it wasn't good for my body, and it wasn't even that I just didn't feel good in my body anymore. I didn't
Mhm.
want to feel, and I didn't want to be numbing anymore. I didn't want to be taking a substance and numbing myself anymore. I wanted to just be me and not be afraid of me. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, when did you realize that you had outgrown your old life, Shannon?
I think the biggest transformation was when COVID happened. Again, I know
Mm.
I've talked about this before, but so many things shifted in my life when COVID happened. Like friends shifted, and um, where we had just moved into a new area, and that had shifted, and so many things shifted through COVID that I couldn't unsee the things that needed to shift. I couldn't unsee them anymore. Like it was so
Mhm.
clear that something needed to shift. And when you can't unsee things anymore, y- y- and especially when you're trying to stop drinking alcohol, um, you can't numb it anymore. So it
Mhm.
was like, there it was. And I didn't want to numb it. And so I just started reaching out to friends and women's groups and sitting in women's circles and really wanting to just improve myself. And
Mhm.
I realized at that time that I was changing a lot, and my ex-husband at the time just wasn't interested in going on that journey with me. And so that's what
Sh
shifted.
Mhm. Shannon, when you were going through the process of changing, did people react negatively to who you were becoming?
Oh yeah, for sure. And they still are.
Mhm.
And they still are. And that's totally okay. And I think that's a lot of the reason why we don't change is because we're afraid of what everybody else thinks.
Mm.
But when we don't
Mhm.
give two F's anymore, then we get to step into our actual real versions of ourselves. I speak my truth, and not everybody likes the truth.
Nina,
Yeah.
what about you? What did you lose in the process, of becoming the new version of you, and, did people react negatively?
First of all, I'm going to reword that. I think everything that happened in my life was a gift. It was a gift, you know? All the people that came to my life. What did I lose? I think as I changed, I felt that, yeah, first I missed my old connections, the family I was married into for over 20 years. I missed that. Yeah, I did. But as I learned, I started reconnecting with them, um, I learned that I didn't fit in there anymore.
Mhm.
So I quite am comfortable with who I am today. I mean, there's some still connections I have from my old life, but I've just I became the real you. I became the real me that I was supposed to be right from the beginning with not having all those suppressions and programmings, and I speak my truth. And when I say speak my truth, it's not that I'm being rude or mean. It's clearing all that emotional block.
Exactly. Mhm.
Exactly, with respect and kindness and love. That's all it is.
Mhm. So, ladies, let's move on to who are you now? So, since you've gone through this process of changing, who are you now? Who are you today?
I would say that I am a joy bringer, a truth teller, and authentically me. And just really, I used to be really afraid of the unknown. Used to need to be in control all the time. And
Mm,
now it's more about trusting the unknown,
mm,
not being afraid of all the things, feeling the fear and doing it anyways,
love it.
and knowing that there's something bigger than myself out there that is guiding me towards what's next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Nina?
I feel connected to myself. I know who I am. I just feel joyful and just grateful where I am today.
What do you no longer tolerate in your life, Nina?
Oh, people overstepping me, you know? Because I didn't have any boundaries, you know? And now that I've have boundaries, I can speak my truth. I had a lot of relationships, a lot of connections where people were overrunning me because I wasn't speaking my truth. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't tell them how I felt. And now that I have all that, my whole life has shifted.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Shannon? What do you no longer tolerate?
Oh, what do I no longer tolerate? I would say I don't really tolerate people overstepping my boundaries anymore.
Mm,
I used to tolerate that a lot. And disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
I do not tolerate disrespect. People
Good.
talking down to me, not okay. Not okay. Actually, don't wait. I usually deal with it in the moment now. I just pause, I take a deep breath, and I either pull the person aside, and I absolutely do not let things build up inside me and let that fester.
mm,
It's like something that is going to be discussed. So hard conversations are something that I've gotten a lot better at because I don't
Mm-hmm.
tolerate people disrespecting me at all anymore.
Okay.
yeah, and if I can add on to that, that was just my journey. I had tolerated so much disrespect and having hard conversations. And I gotta be so honest here, they're so easy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can it could just happen in conversation or over a text or just a quick way of rephrasing something and they'll get it, right?
Mm-hmm. So, we're going to wrap things up now. I have one last question for the both of you. The version of me I let go of was.
Mm. The version of me I let go of is the people pleaser, the person that's worth was wrapped up in pleasing and doing everything for everyone else. The version I let go of is the little girl that was seen and not heard and told to do as she's told and to keep the secrets inside. She's gone. She's gone. And
Kind of similar for me as well. For me, it's speaking my truth and being authentic, regardless of someone likes me or not, and not feeling overwhelmed and respecting, like Shannon was saying earlier. If I'm not well, that means I'm not answering the phone. You know, I put those boundaries up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so very similar to what Shan expressed. Yeah, I don't tolerate disrespect anymore. I speak my truth, and yeah, some people don't like it, but like I said, I do it very respectfully. I don't do it out of vengeance. It's just like this, because when you look back at that other person, they don't want to be disrespected. So why do they disrespect me, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'd like you to share your social media pages with everyone. Give everyone your social media so they can see what you're doing, see what you're about, contact you if they want to. Please. Nina, you can start.
Okay. So you can find me over on right now on under Nina Tiara on Facebook. And you could also find me over on Instagram under Nina Tiara as of now. Yeah. Send me a message there if you're interested in learning more about what I do.
Shannon.
Hey, yeah. So my name's Shannon Donahoe Simpson. You can find me at Shannon Donahoe Simpson on my website. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and also on LinkedIn. And yeah, I'd love to connect with you. Love to hear how I could support you on your coaching through coaching or speaking, um, whatever it is that your needs.
Thank you. Ladies, thank you so much for being guests on the show. And thank you so much for being open and honest and authentic and sharing your stories with everyone. I know that's hard to do, but you were both so open, and I hope that you felt comfortable enough to be yourselves and share your stories with everyone. And I'm sure it's going to resonate with so many people. So, you're helping the listeners, and you've definitely helped me. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks so much,
Great.
Star.
Oh, you're welcome. The purpose of Grown and Ladylike is to create a space where women can speak openly about their experiences without the pressure to be perfect, polished, or politically correct. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do is simply say, like it or not, this is who I am. This is grown and unladylike. And remember, we said what we said. Thank you again, ladies.
Thank you so much, Star.
I'm a strong ass woman. I'm a grown ass woman. I say exactly what I mean. Oh, I speak my mind, I speak my truth. Living free. If you call it a lady life, that's alright with me. Strong women speaking true. Welcome to Grown